The silent fin. The first sign was the birds. Elias Thorne, cartographer of forgotten places, noticed their absence long before he heard the legends. He'd followed old maps, faint lines scratching across parchment, leading him to the whispers of the silent fen, a place where sound was said to simply die. He trekked through the dense, waterlogged marshlands, his heavy boots squelching in the mud. The air grew thick, humid, clinging to his skin like a second damp layer. Ancient, skeletal trees, stripped bare of leaves, clawed at a sky the color of bruised plums. Usually, a fen would be alive with the croak of frogs, the buzz of insects, the distant cry of gulls. Here, there was nothing but the steady thrum of his own pulse in his ears. "Just the isolation getting to me," he muttered aloud, but even his own voice seemed muffled, swallowed almost before it left his lips. He tried again, louder. "Hello?" A weak, pathetic sound, lost instantly in the oppressive quiet. A shiver, colder than the damp air, traced its way up his spine. He pulled his compass from his pack. The needle spun erratically, then settled, pointing stubbornly east, towards the deepest, most mist-shrouded part of the fen. This was it, the heart of the silence. His rational mind fought against a growing dread. It was just an atmospheric anomaly, perhaps a peculiar geological formation that absorbed sound waves. Nothing more. Yet, the silence deepened, becoming a tangible presence. The crunch of dried leaves under his boots was gone. The rustle of his coat as he moved was imperceptible. He found himself moving with exaggerated slowness, trying to feel the impact of his feet on the ground, to confirm his own existence. He reached out to touch a gnarled, moss-covered tree. His fingers pressed against the bark, but the familiar friction, the soft scrape, was utterly absent. It was like touching air, yet the tree was undeniably solid. Panic began to prickle at the edges of his calm. He slapped his hand against his thigh. No sound. He opened his mouth, shaped a scream, but felt only the rush of air against his tongue. No breath, no guttural cry. The world was playing a cruel trick on him, peeling away the very fabric of his sensory experience. The silence wasn't just an absence. It was a weight, a pressure on his eardrums, a suffocating blanket. Through the swirling mist, a structure began to materialize. A circular stone cairn, ancient and crumbling, impossibly old. It wasn't on any map, save for the cryptic sketches in the one he carried, an illustration of a perfectly smooth, dark obelisk rising from the earth. Elias stumbled towards it, drawn by a morbid curiosity he couldn't fight. The air around the cairn shimmered, not with heat, but with an unnatural stillness. The very light seemed duller here, sucked into the void. At the center of the collapsed stones, just as the drawing depicted, stood an obelisk of polished black stone, impossibly smooth, reflecting nothing. It hummed, not with sound, but with a resonant, dreadful vibration that Elias felt in his bones. He reached out a trembling hand. As his fingertips neared the obelisk's surface, he saw it, faint, almost transparent ripples in the air, like distortions in water, moving within the silence. They were formless, shifting shadows, as if something vast and unseen was pressing against a boundary, trying to break through from wherever the sound went. His heart hammered against his ribs, a frantic drumbeat that was the only sound left in his world. He wanted to cry out, to warn whatever spectral presence lay beyond that stone, but his throat seized. He heard a gasp, sharp and clear, but it wasn't from his lips. It was a horrifying sound inside his own head, a pure terror unfiltered by his ears. He was screaming, but no one, nothing would ever hear him. He yanked his hand back, stumbling away from the obelisk as if burned. The silence, momentarily, felt even deeper, more profound. A gaping maw that threatened to swallow him whole. He scrambled, turning blindly, not caring which direction he went. Just away from that impossible stone and the unseen things that writhed beyond it. He ran until his lungs burned, until the mist began to thin, until the first faint sound, a distant, watery plop, reached his ears. Then another. The croak of a frog, small and fragile, grew louder. The rustle of wind through skeletal reeds, the distant cry of a solitary crow. Sound returned, gradually, like a tide rolling back in. but it was jarring, almost painful in its sudden clamor. He fell to his knees, gasping, hands pressed to his ears, the world suddenly too loud. Elias eventually made his way out of the fen, shaken to his core. The sounds of the world returned, sharp and vibrant, but something had changed within him. He still heard the birds, the wind, the distant hum of civilization. But beneath it all, always, he now perceived a terrifying resonant emptiness, a silent thrum that spoke of the void he had briefly visited. The silent fen was behind him, but its quiet, chilling echo would forever ring in his mind.